The massive Kraxan warship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in patterns that seemed to defy physics. Commander Rena Patel stood in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the holographic display with practiced calm. After 15 years of intercepting deep space transmissions, humanity had known this day would come. They just hadn't expected the Kraxans to be so subtle. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," announced Lieutenant James Chen, his fingers dancing across the neural interface console. "Text only. No video feed." Rena nodded, her augmented eyes scanning the incoming message. The Kraxans were offering Earth membership in their Galactic Cooperative, a name that Earth's intelligence services knew masked a vast empire of subjugated species. But unlike their usual approach of immediate overwhelming force, they were attempting diplomacy. "They think we're primitive," Dr. Maya Rodriguez said from her position at the Xenobiology Station. "Their scans are only detecting our public infrastructure. Everything we've built in the Kuiper Belt is invisible to them." That had been humanity's greatest advantage. While the world publicly squabbled over minor political issues, the United Earth Defense Force had spent decades preparing in secret. The ancient artifacts discovered beneath the Martian ice had given them insights into Kraxan technology that the Empire never suspected. The message continued with promises of technological advancement, medical breakthroughs, and interstellar travel. To any civilization that hadn't spent years studying the Kraxan's true nature, it would have seemed generous, benevolent, even. "Send the prepared response," Rena commanded. "Let's see how they handle a species that already knows their playbook." The message they transmitted back was carefully crafted to seem naive, while containing subtle hints that humanity wasn't as primitive as they appeared. The reaction was immediate. The Kraxan ship's energy signature shifted, indicating surprise. "They're scanning more aggressively now," James reported. "Should we maintain the stealth fields?" "Yes," Rena said. "Let them waste time trying to figure out why their scans don't match their intelligence reports. Each hour they spend confused is another hour for our deep space units to get into position." The Kraxan response came quickly, their message now containing an edge of uncertainty. They requested a video conference with Earth's leaders, something their psychological profile indicated they only did when situations didn't match their expectations. "Time to give them their first real surprise," Rena smiled. "Connect me to the Kuiper Belt defense grid. Let's show them what happens when you try to con a species that's been reading your mail for the past 15 years. As she gave the order, hundreds of stealth satellites throughout the solar system began powering up their quantum entanglement cores. The Kraxans were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to learn from the mistakes of others. The video connection established, revealing the Kraxan commander, a towering figure with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes. Before he could speak, Rena began reciting the Kraxan Empire's own secret military codes, watching with satisfaction as all four sets of eyes widened in shock. "Welcome to Earth," she said calmly. "We've been expecting you. Now shall we discuss the terms of your immediate withdrawal, or would you prefer to learn exactly how much we know about your Empire's weaknesses?" The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, the Kraxans faced a species that had turned their own secrecy against them. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared for this specific war, against this specific enemy. As backup Kraxan ships began emerging from hyperspace, Rena allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 had worked perfectly. The Kraxans had taken the bait, committed their forces exactly where Earth's defense grid was strongest. Now it was time to show them why underestimating humanity was the last mistake so many empires had ever made. The real battle was about to begin, and humanity was ready with weapons and strategies the Kraxans had never seen before. After all, while they had been conquering primitive species, humanity had been studying, adapting, and preparing. The hunter was about to become the hunted. Dr. Maya Rodriguez watched the holographic display as thousands of Kraxan warships poured through the hyperspace corridor. Their crystalline hulls formed a deadly constellation against the backdrop of space, each vessel bristling with weapons that had subjugated countless civilizations. But Maya wasn't worried. She was smiling. "They're maintaining standard attack formation," Lieutenant Chen reported, exactly as the deep space intercepts predicted. From her position in the Titan research base, buried deep beneath the moon's icy surface, Maya had spent years preparing for this moment. The Kraxans' rigid military doctrine, their unwavering belief in their technological superiority, these would be their undoing. "Begin quantum field activation," she ordered. Across the solar system, hidden facilities powered up technology that the Kraxans had never encountered. Not because they couldn't develop it, but because their empire's rigid thinking had never allowed them to imagine it. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Kraxan fleet attempted to launch their standard opening barrage. Their energy weapons, capable of reducing planets to ash, simply disappeared. The beams of destructive force vanished into seemingly empty space. "Quantum sync fields operating at 98% efficiency," reported Dr. Sarah Chen, Maya's lead physicist. "Their energy weapons are feeding directly into our power grid, just as the simulations predicted." The Kraxans' second volley met the same fate. On their bridge, confusion turned to concern. Their scanners, the most advanced in known space, couldn't detect how their attacks were being neutralized. They couldn't see the network of quantum singularities that humanity had spent decades positioning throughout the solar system. "They're switching to kinetic weapons," James announced. "Mass driver platforms deploying." Maya nodded. "Activate the gravity lens arrays." Across the asteroid belt, hundreds of seemingly ordinary rocks revealed their true nature. Each contained a miniaturized gravity manipulation system, technology reverse-engineered from artifacts found in the Martian ruins. As the Kraxans launched their kinetic bombardment, these devices activated. The massive projectiles, fired at relativistic speeds, suddenly found themselves caught in impossibly precise gravitational fields. Their trajectories curved, looped, and in many cases, returned directly to their points of origin. The Kraxan fleet scattered in disarray as their own weapons boomeranged back at them. "They're attempting to deploy boarding craft," Sarah reported. "Looks like they want to capture our defense platforms." "Perfect," Maya smiled. "Release the nanite clouds." This was humanity's ace in the hole. While the Kraxans relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, humans had developed technology on a microscopic scale. Clouds of self-replicating nanites, invisible to Kraxan sensors, swarmed their boarding craft. Within minutes, the supposedly impenetrable crystal hulls began to deteriorate. "Multiple Kraxan ships reporting critical system failures," James announced. "Their crystal matrix technology is being systematically dismantled at the atomic level." The Kraxan commander's face appeared on the main screen, his iridescent scales now pale with alarm. "What sorcery is this?" he demanded. "What have you done to our ships?" Maya stepped forward, her augmented eyes gleaming. "We've done exactly what humanity does best, Commander. We observed, we learned, and we innovated. Your empire has spent millennia perfecting one way of waging war. We've spent decades developing countless ways to counter it." As if to emphasize her point, another wave of nanites breached the crystalline hull of a Kraxan dreadnought. The massive ship's weapon systems went dark as the microscopic machines rewrote its molecular structure from the inside out. "You rely too heavily on your crystal technology," Maya explained. "Did it never occur to you that something so perfectly ordered could be perfectly vulnerable to the right kind of disruption?" The Kraxan commander's response was cut short as his own ship's systems began to fail. The nanites had reached his command center. Throughout the fleet, crystal structures were being transformed into ordinary silicon, rendering the Kraxans' advanced technology useless. "Phase 2 complete," Sarah reported. "Their fleet is effectively neutralized." Maya nodded, but kept her expression serious. This was only the beginning. The Kraxans would adapt, would try new strategies. But that was exactly what humanity was counting on. Because while the Empire could only think in terms of weapons and warfare, humanity had prepared surprises that went far beyond mere military technology. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. "Let's show them why humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons. It's our ability to think differently about how to use them." Colonel Jack Harper sat in the dimly lit control center of Earth's Psychological Operations Division, watching streams of data flow across holographic displays. While the space battle raged above, his team was fighting a different kind of war, one that targeted the minds and hearts of the enemy rather than their ships. "Their communication networks are fully mapped," reported Captain Lisa Wong, her fingers dancing across neural interfaces. Their encryption was impressive, but it wasn't designed to stop someone who'd been studying it for decades. Harper nodded, his cybernetic eye glowing softly in the dark room. The Kraxans had never encountered an enemy who fought quite like humanity. Their empire's strict hierarchical structure made them vulnerable to a very different kind of attack. "Launch Operation Babel," he commanded. Across the solar system, specialized quantum transmitters activated, sending carefully crafted data packets through the Kraxans' own communication channels. Each packet contained something the Empire had never expected: the truth. Lower-ranking Kraxan crew members began receiving evidence of their leaders' deceptions, historical records showing peaceful species that had been falsely painted as aggressors, proof that the Empire's defensive wars had actually been carefully orchestrated invasions, documents revealing how the ruling class hoarded advanced technology while keeping their own people technologically dependent. "They're trying to block the transmissions," Lisa reported with a slight smile. "But they can't. We're using their own emergency channels. If they shut them down, they lose fleet coordination." The effect was immediate and devastating. The rigid discipline of the Kraxan fleet began to crack. Ships delayed following orders as their crews discussed the revelations. Some younger officers openly questioned their commanders' decisions. "Phase 2 of psychological operations is ready," announced Dr. Emma Chen, the team's synopsychologist. "Beginning cultural infiltration." This time, the transmissions carried something even more potent than truth: human culture. Art, music, literature, and philosophy began flowing through Kraxan networks, ideas that the Empire had long suppressed as dangerous: individual freedom, self-determination, the right to question authority, spread like wildfire among the lower ranks. "Sir," Lisa called out, "we're getting unprecedented feedback. Some Kraxan crews are actively requesting more information. They're particularly interested in Earth's historical revolutions and independence movements." Harper allowed himself a grim smile. The Kraxans had expected to face primitive weapons and simple tactics. Instead, they were facing an enemy that had turned their own communication network into a weapon against their empire's foundations. "They're attempting to implement communication blackouts," Dr. Chen reported. "But we anticipated that. The quantum-entangled data packets can't be blocked. They're using the principles of their own FTL technology against them." On the main screen, Harper watched as the neat formation of the Kraxan fleet began to dissolve. Some ships were going dark, their crews refusing orders. Others were actively moving to protect Earth's defense platforms from their fellow ships. "Sir," Lisa's voice was excited, "we're receiving transmissions from within the Kraxan fleet. Multiple crews are requesting asylum. They're offering to share detailed technical information about their ship systems." This was humanity's true weapon, not the ability to destroy, but the ability to change minds. While the Kraxans had prepared for physical warfare, humanity had studied their society, their culture, their beliefs. And now they were using that knowledge to turn the Empire's greatest strength, its unity, into its greatest weakness. "Begin final phase," Harper ordered. "Share the Federation protocols." This was the masterstroke, a detailed plan for transforming the Kraxan Empire into a democratic federation, one where all species would have equal rights and representation. It wasn't just a victory humanity sought. It was a complete transformation of their enemy into something better. Multiple Kraxan command ships are reporting mutinies, Lisa announced. The crew manifest us they're broadcasting. Sir, they're quoting directly from Earth's historical declarations of independence. Harper stood, watching as the mighty Kraxan fleet tore itself apart from within. Send one final message to all ships, he commanded. Tell them that Earth offers sanctuary to any crew that wishes to live in freedom. Show them that humanity knows not just how to win a war, but how to end one without destroying our enemies. As the message went out, the battle above Earth turned into something unprecedented. Not a fight for survival, but a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. The Kraxans had come expecting to find primitive warriors. Instead, they found teachers of freedom. Admiral Elena Santos stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Prometheus, watching as reports flooded in from across Kraxan space. What had begun as a defense of Earth had evolved into something far greater. A full-scale revolution that was spreading like wildfire through the Empire's 1,000-year-old hierarchy. Another sector has declared independence, reported Commander David Chang, his holographic display showing vast regions of space turning from Imperial purple to rebel green. The Centaurian colonies are requesting Earth advisors to help establish their democratic councils. Elena nodded, remembering how quickly things had escalated after the battle at Earth. The ideas of freedom and self-determination had proven more powerful than any weapon in the Kraxan arsenal. Their rigid society, built on absolute obedience and strict hierarchy, had no defense against the concept of individual rights. The Kraxan High Command has lost contact with 60% of their fleet, Lieutenant Sarah O'Connor announced from her communications station. Most of the ships have joined the rebellion outright. Others are simply refusing to follow Imperial orders. The success of their strategy had surprised even Earth's most optimistic planners. They had expected the psychological warfare campaign to create confusion and discord within the Kraxan ranks. Instead, it had ignited a passion for freedom that had been dormant in the Empire's subjugated species for generations. New transmission from the Artaxian resistance, David reported. Their shipyards have been secured. They're beginning to modify the crystal drive technology, implementing the improvements our engineers suggested. That had been another surprise. The incredible speed with which former Imperial subjects had begun innovating once freed from the Empire's technological restrictions. Species that had been forced to use only approved Imperial technology were now developing their own unique advancements at an astounding rate. Multiple Imperial prison worlds are reporting successful uprisings, Sarah added. The genetic engineering facilities have been shut down. The Empire's forced evolution program has been terminated. Elena's expression hardened at that. The discovery of the Kraxans' genetic manipulation of their own population had been one of the most horrifying revelations. For centuries, they had been selectively breeding their people for obedience and conformity, literally engineering free will out of their species. Launch Phase 4, she commanded. Share the complete genetic restoration protocols with all liberated worlds. This was humanity's most ambitious project, not just freeing the Empire's subjects, but helping them restore what generations of genetic manipulation had taken from them. Earth's geneticists had worked tirelessly to develop methods to reverse the damage, to give the Kraxan people back their capacity for independent thought. Admiral, David's voice was urgent. We're detecting a massive energy signature. The Imperial Palace on Kraxan Prime is powering up their doomsday device. Elena had expected this. The Empire's ruling class had made it clear they would rather destroy their civilization than lose control of it. But humanity had prepared for this too. Deploy the quantum nullification field, she ordered. Across former Imperial space, hidden human devices activated, creating a web of quantum distortions that rendered the Empire's most destructive weapons useless. The device has been neutralized, Sarah confirmed. And, Admiral, you need to see this. The main screen showed crowds gathering in the streets of Kraxan Prime. Not just the subjugated species, but Kraxans themselves, ordinary citizens whose genetic restoration had been secretly underway for months through their water supply. They were gathering in numbers that hadn't been seen in centuries, demanding change. The Imperial Palace guards are laying down their weapons, David reported, his voice filled with awe. The crowd, they're singing Earth songs about freedom. They're quoting human philosophers. Elena watched as the Empire's seat of power was peacefully overwhelmed by its own people. Humanity had achieved what no species had thought possible, not just defeating the Kraxan Empire, but transforming it from within. "Send word to Earth," she commanded. "Tell them Phase 4 is complete. The revolution was successful." She paused, watching as celebrations broke out across thousands of worlds. "And tell them we're going to need a lot more cultural exchange advisors. We have an entire galaxy of newly freed people eager to learn about democracy." Across what had once been Imperial space, a new era was beginning. The rigid crystal spires of Kraxan architecture were being modified, organic curves and individual expressions appearing in their designs. Ships were being repainted with personal colors and names. People were creating art for the first time in generations. Humanity had done more than win a war. They had shown an entire galaxy a new way to live. The Great Rebellion had succeeded not through superior firepower, but through the most powerful force in the universe, the innate desire of all sentient beings to be free. 1 year after the fall of the Kraxan Empire, the Grand Chamber of the newly established Galactic Coalition buzzed with activity. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in what had once been the Imperial Palace on Kraxan Prime. The crystal walls, once a symbol of imperial might, now shimmered with holographic displays showing real-time translations in thousands of languages. Director Amara Patel, Earth's primary representative, stood at the central podium, her augmented eyes scanning the assembled delegates. Former imperial subjects sat alongside their one-time oppressors, all working together to forge a new future. It was a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. "The restoration projects are proceeding ahead of schedule," she announced. "Thanks to the combined efforts of Earth scientists and Kraxan geneticists, over 60% of the affected populations have had their genetic modifications reversed. The capacity for independent thought is returning to species that lost it generations ago." In the audience, several former high-ranking Kraxans nodded, their iridescent scales now showing natural variations in pattern and color, the first visible sign of their own genetic restoration. They had been among the first to volunteer for the treatment, eager to reclaim the individuality their ancestors had sacrificed for power. "The technological integration programs have exceeded all expectations," reported Dr. Marcus Chen, head of the Coalition's Science Division. "By combining Earth's innovative approach with Kraxan crystal technology, we've achieved breakthroughs that neither civilization could have reached alone." The evidence was all around them. The chamber itself was powered by a hybrid system that merged human quantum mechanics with Kraxan crystal matrices. Ships in orbit combined Earth's adaptive AI systems with improved versions of Kraxan drives. Even the universal translators were a joint achievement, mixing human neural network algorithms with crystal-based quantum processing. "Most significantly," Amara continued, "the Cultural Exchange Initiative has transformed former imperial worlds into thriving centers of diversity. Artists, musicians, and philosophers from Earth are working alongside newly freed species, creating entirely new forms of expression." The main display showed images from across Coalition space, former prison worlds turned into universities, imperial fortresses converted into museums and cultural centers, battle fleets repurposed for exploration and scientific research. But most striking were the people themselves, each species now expressing their individuality in ways that had been forbidden for centuries. "There have been challenges," she acknowledged. "Change on this scale doesn't come easily. But our strength lies in how we face these challenges, together, as equals, each contributing our unique perspectives and abilities." A former Kraxan general, now one of the strongest supporters of the Coalition, stood to speak. "We thought we were superior because we had conquered diversity," he said, his voice carrying the new inflections that marked restored Kraxan speech patterns. "Instead, we had only conquered ourselves. Earth showed us that true strength comes from embracing differences, not eliminating them." The chamber erupted in applause. another human custom that had quickly spread through coalition space. The sound was a symphony of different appendages creating rhythm in unique ways, a perfect symbol of their new unity through diversity. "The next phase of our journey begins today," Amara announced. "The first joint exploration fleets are ready to launch." Human curiosity combined with Kraxan technology, guided by the wisdom we've all gained from our shared experiences. Together, we'll explore not just space, but new ways of living, thinking, and growing. As she spoke, the chamber's crystal walls shifted, becoming transparent to reveal the space above. Hundreds of ships hung in orbit, their designs a beautiful fusion of human and Kraxan aesthetics. Each vessel carried mixed crews, former enemies now working side by side, as explorers and peacekeepers. "We've proven that the greatest power in the universe isn't technology or military might, or even the ability to control others," she concluded. "It's the power to change, to grow, to learn from each other. Humanity didn't win a war. We helped birth a transformation. And this is just the beginning." The assembled delegates rose in a standing ovation that lasted for minutes. Outside, the streets of the former imperial capital were filled with celebrations. Humans danced alongside restored Kraxans, while freed slave species shared their rediscovered cultural traditions with their former masters. Victory through unity hadn't just been a strategy. It had become a way of life. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where diversity was celebrated, individuality was treasured, and the only empire that mattered was the empire of free minds working together toward a better future for all.